a werewolf shifter romance audiobook written by Trisha. Vessel of the Wolf King. Chapter 1. The Cost of Breath. Death didn't smell like rotting meat or old garbage. It smelled like antiseptic and cheap lavender soap. That smell clung to my hair. It soaked into my skin. I couldn't scrub it off. I stood in the doorway of our tiny, crumbling apartment in the dregs. The gray fog outside pressed against the window. It looked like a bruise on the sky. Inside, the sound was worse than the smell. Cough, rattle, wheeze. My little sister, Alara, was dying. Not quickly, not mercifully, but slowly. By the time I dropped my bag on the cracked floor, another coughing fit shook her thin frame. Deep down, she knew the truth. If I didn't get money, real money, not the scraps I earned scrubbing floors, Alara would be gone in a week. As a result, fear tightened around my throat like a cold hand. I rushed to her side. Her skin was burning hot. Too hot. "Ivy?" she whispered. Her voice was like dry leaves scraping together. "Did you get the medicine?" I looked away. Truth be told, I didn't even have enough for bread, let alone the blue vials that kept the shifter flu from eating her lungs. Because of that, I lied. "Tomorrow," I said, smoothing her sweaty hair back. "I promise, Alara, tomorrow." But then, the screen on the wall flickered to life. It was the only thing in the house that still worked perfectly. The royal seal appeared, a golden wolf head with ruby eyes. Without warning, a voice boomed through the room. "Citizens of the Gray Zone, the palace issues a decree. King Alaric and Queen Seraphina seek a surrogate, a healthy human female. Compensation, 1 million credits, and full medical clearance for the immediate family." 1 million. Full medical. Just like that, the air left the room. My heart stopped. Then it slammed against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. At that moment, I didn't see a king or a queen. I saw a cure. I saw Alara breathing without pain. I saw a future where we didn't have to eat moldy bread. Yet, everyone knew the stories. Girls went into the Obsidian Palace and they came back changed, or they didn't come back at all. The wolves were predators. We were just cattle to them. Toys. Still, I looked at Alara. She was gasping for air now. Her chest heaved. Her eyes were rolling back. So, I made a choice. Without thinking, I grabbed my coat. I didn't care about the rumors. I didn't care about the danger. Maybe it was fate, or maybe it was just desperation. But would you sell your body to save a soul? Would you walk into a den of monsters if it meant the person you loved most would survive? In the span of a breath, I was out the door. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the alley, a man in a gray cloak watched me leave. I didn't see him. I didn't know he had been watching our apartment for days. And I certainly didn't know that he smiled when I started running toward the palace gates. Eventually, I made it to the selection room. It wasn't a room. It was a cavern of black marble and gold. It was cold. So cold. What followed was hours of poking and prodding. Doctors in white coats treated me like a piece of meat. They checked my teeth. They took my blood. They measured my hips. Throughout the script, I kept my head down. I focused on Alara. 1 million credits. 1 million credits. Finally, the doors opened. Without another word, the guards shoved me forward. And there they were. King Alaric. He was huge. That was the only word for him. He sat on a throne of twisted iron, but he looked like he wanted to tear it apart. He had dark hair, a sharp jaw, and eyes that burned like molten gold. He didn't look like a man. He looked like a storm trapped in skin. On the other hand, Queen Seraphina was beautiful, perfect, like a porcelain doll. She smiled at me, but her eyes were dead, like a shark's. "This is the one?" Alaric's voice was a low rumble. It vibrated in my chest. It made my knees weak, not from fear, but from something else, something hot. Deep down, I knew the truth. I shouldn't be reacting to him like this. He was a monster. "She is compatible, my king," the doctor said, trembling. "Her genetics are unusually resilient for a human." As the silence stretched, Alaric stood up. He walked toward me. With every step he took, the air got heavier. He smelled like pine needles, rain, and musk. It was intoxicating. It made my head spin. In fact, I wanted to lean closer. Why did I want to lean closer? He stopped inches from me. He towered over me. "Look at me," he commanded. As if pulled by a string, I looked up. The moment their eyes locked, a shockwave went through me. Shh, like touching a live wire. His pupils dilated. Black swallowed the gold. He inhaled sharply as if he smelled something he didn't expect. At the same time, the queen stepped forward. She put a hand on his arm. Her nails dug into his suit. "She looks frail, Alaric," Serafina purred. Her voice was sweet poison. "Are you sure she can carry an alpha's pup? She might break." Because of that tone, I knew she wanted me to fail. She hated me instantly. Why? Was it just because I was human, or was it something else? Even so, Alaric didn't look at her. He kept staring at me, analyzing me, hunting me. "She will do," he growled. Then he leaned down. His breath brushed my ear. "Do not think this is a kind little human. You are a vessel, nothing more. You carry my heir, you get your money, and you leave. Do you understand?" Her voice trembled as I answered. "Yes." What's worse, I saw something in the corner of the room. A small table. On it was a silver tray with a glass of water and a small white pill. The queen glanced at it, then quickly looked away when she saw me watching. So I signed the paper. The ink looked like blood. And just like that, everything changed. I belonged to the king now. The next morning, they took me to the clinic. Truth be told, I was terrified. The walls were white. The lights were blinding. Before she could move, they strapped me to the table. The restraints were cold metal. Clang. Clang. What followed was a blur. The doctor held up a syringe. It glowed with a faint blue light. The essence of the alpha. Moments later, I felt the needle. But then the pain hit. It wasn't just a pinch. It was on fire. Liquid lava pouring into my veins. "Ah!" I screamed. I arched my back. Suddenly, the heart monitor went crazy. Beep, 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 beep. "Her temperature is spiking," a nurse yelled. 102, 105. At that moment, Alaric burst into the room. He had been watching from the glass gallery. He tore the door off its hinges. Crash. Without thinking, he rushed to the table. "What did you do to her?" he roared. As the mark tingled on my arm, a mark I didn't have 5 minutes ago, I looked at him. Everything felt different. The lights were too bright, the smells were too strong. I could smell the doctor's fear, sour milk. I could smell the queen's perfume, rotting flowers. And Alaric. Oh, Alaric. He smelled like home. He smelled like safety. Deep down, she knew the truth. This wasn't just a pregnancy. The baby alpha blood was doing something to me. It was waking something up. As if summoned, a growl rose in my throat. My throat. A human throat shouldn't make that sound. The tension broke when Alaric touched my hand. His skin was cool. Immediately, the pain vanished. It was replaced by a hum, a vibration that connected us. He looked down at me, his eyes wide with shock. He felt it too. Yet he pulled his hand away as if I had burned him. "Sedate her," he ordered. His voice was cold again, but his hands were shaking, because he knew. He knew what just happened wasn't normal. As the darkness took me, I had one thought. I wasn't just a vessel anymore, and the queen knew it too. I saw her face just before my eyes closed. She wasn't smiling. She was terrified. Because of that fear, I knew my life was in danger. Does a lamb survive in a den of wolves? Or does the lamb have to become a wolf to survive? Meanwhile, back in the dregs, the screen in my apartment flickered off. Alara was alone, and the man in the gray cloak was knocking on our door. Come morning, I didn't wake up, I gasped. My eyes flew open, my lungs burned, the air in the room was too thin, too clean. In the span of a breath, I scrambled backward. My back hit the headboard. Thump. Where was I? Silk sheets, velvet curtains, a chandelier that looked like frozen tears, the obsidian palace. Just like that, the memory hit me like a physical blow. The contract, the needle, the fire in my veins. Deep down, she knew the truth. I wasn't just tired. I felt predatory. My skin felt too tight for my body. My teeth felt sharp. Without warning, the door creaked open. Immediately, I smelled it. Not the person, but their intent. It smelled like sour milk and rusted iron. Queen Seraphina glided into the room. She was wearing a gown of blood-red silk. She looked perfect. She looked deadly. Awake already? She asked. Her voice was light, but her eyes were cold. As if pulled by a string, I pulled the blanket up to my chin. Your Majesty. She walked to the window. She looked out at the gray sky. Do you know why I chose you, Ivy? She asked softly. Before the words left her lips, I shook my head. Because you are nothing, she said. She turned around. Her smile was gone. You are a rat from the dregs, disposable. If you disappear, no one will look for you. The air thickened. I know what you are thinking, she whispered, stepping closer. You think you are special because the king looked at you, because he touched you. With every step she took, the smell of rusted iron got stronger. Fear? No hate, pure, distilled hate. He is an alpha, she hissed. He is drawn to anything that can breed. Do not mistake biology for affection. Then, she dropped a small glass vial on the bedside table. Clink. Vitamins, she said. For the baby. Take them, every day. As a result, a chill went down my spine. The liquid inside was cloudy, gray. Why would the queen deliver vitamins herself? Why not a doctor? Because she didn't want anyone else to see them. Without another word, she swept out of the room. The door clicked shut. Lock. I was trapped. Suddenly, my stomach growled, not a normal rumble. A feral, deep sound that vibrated in my chest. Grrr! I looked at the silver tray of fruit on the table. Apples, grapes, bread. Yet, my mouth watered for something else. I didn't want the apple. Truth be told, I wanted the bird sitting on the windowsill outside. I wanted to feel its little heartbeat in my hand. I wanted to bite. What's worse, I liked the thought. And just like that, everything changed. I wasn't just a girl in a palace. I was a monster in a cage. Meanwhile, in the war room, King Alaric paced. Step, turn, he couldn't sit still. His wolf was pacing inside him, scratching at his ribs. Usually, the war room was his sanctuary. It smelled of old maps and leather. It was quiet. But then, today the air smelled wrong. It smelled like her. Ivy. Even so, she was in the West Wing, miles away through stone corridors. Impossible, unless she wasn't just a human surrogate. In fact, Alaric had felt it the moment he touched her hand in the clinic. A spark, a pull, a snap of static electricity that shouldn't exist between a wolf and a human. My king? Alaric stopped. General Kyle was staring at him. The Iron Claw Pack, Kyle said slowly, pointing at the map. They are moving troops to the border. Again. Because of that, Alaric forced himself to focus. The Iron Claw, his enemies. They had been quiet for years. Why move now? Send the scouts, Alaric growled. His voice was deeper than usual. Rougher. Suddenly, the doors opened. Queen Seraphina walked in. As if the room narrowed, Alaric's wolf bristled. The hair on his arm stood up. He looked at his wife. He should love her. She was his queen. Their marriage secured the alliance that kept the kingdom safe. Yet when she walked toward him, he didn't feel love. He felt cold. Alaric, she said, touching his arm. You seem distracted. Without thinking, He pulled away. Subtle. But she noticed. Her eyes narrowed. "I am busy, Serafina," he said. "Thinking about the girl?" she asked. Her voice was light, but there was a razor blade hidden in the tone. Before he could answer, a wave of nausea hit him. It was her perfume. It was too sweet. It was covering something up. Deep down, he knew the truth. He smelled another wolf on her. Faint, old. But there, iron, rust, blood, the scent of the iron claw pack. Why would his queen smell like his enemies? Maybe it was fate that he noticed it today. Maybe his senses were heightened because of the baby. Or maybe his wolf was finally waking up from a long sleep. "I am checking on the surrogate," Alaric said abruptly. He needed to get away from her. He needed to clear his head, and he needed to smell her again. Ivy. Just to be sure. As the silence stretched, Serafina smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Of course," she said. "She is fragile, Alaric. Be gentle." Moments later, Alaric was striding down the hall. Fast, too fast. Deep down, he knew he wasn't going to check on the baby. He was going to find out why a human girl smelled like his salvation. That night, hunger woke me up again. It was a clawing, desperate emptiness in my stomach. So I got out of bed. The floor was cold. I went to the door. Locked, of course. But then I heard footsteps. Heavy, rhythmic. Thud, thud, thud. The lock clicked. The handle turned. Without warning, the door opened. It was Alaric. He wasn't wearing his crown. He wasn't wearing his armor. He was wearing a loose white shirt, unbuttoned at the top. His hair was messy. In the echo of his voice, the room felt smaller. "You are awake," he said. "I'm hungry," I whispered. My voice sounded hoarse. He stepped inside. He kicked the door shut with his heel. Then he looked at the tray of untouched fruit. He looked at the cloudy vial of vitamins the queen had left. He picked up the vial. He sniffed it. At that moment, his face changed. His lips curled back. A low sound rumbled in his chest. "Growl." "Don't drink this," he ordered. He crushed the vial in his hand. Crack! Glass turned to dust. Her breath caught. "Why?" "Because it's poison," he said. Blunt. Honest. As a result, my knees gave out. Poison? The queen wanted to kill me? Before she could move, Alaric was there. He caught me. His arms were like steel bands wrapped around me. Hot. He was so hot. The moment their eyes locked, the hunger in my stomach changed. It wasn't hunger for food anymore. It was hunger for him. I leaned into him. I couldn't help it. I pressed my nose against his chest. I inhaled. Pine. Rain. Wolf. Her wolf pressed forward. "Ivy," he groaned. It was a warning, but he didn't let go. His hand slid up my back, his fingers tangled in my hair. "You smell," he whispered, burying his face in my neck. "You smell like mine." Time stood still. Then he pulled back. His eyes were wild. Gold fire. "What are you?" he asked. "No human smells like this. No human makes me lose control like this." Truth be told, I didn't know the answer. "I don't know," I cried. "I'm scared, Alaric. I want to go home." At the same time, a sharp pain ripped through my abdomen. Stab. I doubled over. "The baby," I gasped. Alaric placed his hand on my stomach. His palm was huge. As the bond pulsed, a blue light glowed beneath his hand. It seeped into my skin. The pain vanished, but something else happened. As the light faded, I saw his arm. The hair was growing, thick, dark. His nails were lengthening into claws. He was shifting, right here, because he touched me. What's worse, I felt my own bones creak in response. My jaw ached. My spine burned. Because of that, Alaric shoved me away. He stumbled back, crashing into the table. "Stay back," he roared. "It's triggering the shift." Eventually, he regained control. He stood there, panting. Sweat dripped down his face. "We are dangerous together," he said. His voice was rough, too dangerous. Yet he looked at me with a hunger that matched my own. And in the shadows of the hallway, outside the door, someone was listening. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, a scream from the servants' quarters. "Wolf! There's a wolf in the palace!" Not only that, but the alarm bells started ringing. Clang! 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 As if fate demanded it, Alaric looked at me. "Stay here," he commanded. "Lock the door." He ran out. But I didn't lock the door. Instead, I walked to the balcony. I looked down into the courtyard, and I saw it. A massive gray wolf. It wasn't Alaric. It wasn't a guard. It was holding a piece of fabric in its teeth, a blue scarf. My blood ran cold. That was Alara's scarf. Deep down, she knew the truth. The man in the gray cloak, he hadn't just been watching. He had taken her. My sister was here, in the palace, and she was bait. Without thinking, I climbed over the balcony railing. The stone was wet, slippery. The wind howled like a dying animal. Whoosh! Deep down, she knew the truth. Going out there was suicide. The courtyard was a killing ground. But then, I looked down at the blue scarf in the mud. Alara's scarf. So, fear didn't matter. Pain didn't matter. Only she mattered. As if pulled by a string, I lowered myself down. The vines cut into my hands. Scratch. Sting. Warm blood trickled down my palm. Finally, my feet hit the grass. Thump. It was freezing. The fog was thick here. It tasted like ash and metal. Immediately, I started running toward the spot where I saw the wolf. "Alara?" I whispered. "Please be alive." Suddenly, a shadow moved to my left. Her breath caught. I froze. In the stillness that followed, I heard it. A low, wet breathing. Huff, huff. It wasn't human. Because of that, I crouched behind a stone statue. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Bang, bang, bang. What followed was a sound that made my blood turn to ice. A laugh, a man's laugh. "Come out, little vessel," a voice rasped. It sounded like gravel grinding together. "The Queen sends her regards." Her world tilted. The Queen? She sent an assassin? Not just poison, but a killer? Before she could move, the fog parted. The gray wolf stepped out. He was massive, scarred. One ear was missing. He shifted, bones snapping and popping until a man stood there. Naked, covered in mud, holding the blue scarf. Truth be told, he looked like a nightmare. "Where is she?" I screamed. I stood up. I didn't care anymore. As a result, the man smiled. His teeth were yellow, sharp. "She is safe for now," he sneered. "If you want her to live, you will leave the palace. Tonight." Just like that, I understood. It was blackmail. Yet, before I could answer, the air changed. Suddenly, the smell of ozone and pine exploded around us. Without warning, a black blur shot over the garden wall. It was Alaric. In the span of a breath, Alaric hit the man. Crunch. The sound of breaking bones echoed in the courtyard. What followed was pure violence. Alaric didn't shift fully. He was half man, half monster. Claws tore through skin. Fangs ripped at throats. "You dare!" Alaric roared. "You dare enter my home!" The tension broke into chaos. The gray wolf tried to shift back, but Alaric was too fast. He grabbed the intruder by the neck. He slammed him into the stone wall. Crack! As the silence roared, Alaric held him there. "Who sent you?" Alaric growled. His eyes were burning gold. "Speak!" Even so, the intruder just laughed. Blood bubbled on his lips. "The Iron Claw never forgets," he wheezed. "The Queen opened the gate." Her chest ached at the words. The Queen. It was confirmed. Then, the intruder's eyes rolled back. He went limp. Dead. Suddenly, Alaric dropped the body. He spun around. He looked at me. He was covered in blood. Red splatters on his white shirt. On his face. He looked terrifying. Yet, when he saw me shivering in the grass, his face softened. The monster vanished. The king returned. Without another word, he walked toward me. I flinched. Deep down, I was scared of him, of what he could do. But then, he fell to his knees in the mud. He grabbed my shoulders. His hands were shaking. "Did he touch you?" he demanded. His voice was frantic. "Did he hurt you?" "No," I whispered. "But he has Alara, my sister." As the truth unraveled, Alaric's expression changed. Confusion, then rage, then guilt. "Your sister?" he asked. "The queen said you had no family." Because of that lie, he hadn't protected her. "She lied," I sobbed. "She has her. She's using her to make me leave." At that moment, Alaric pulled me into his chest. He didn't care about the blood. He didn't care about the mud. He wrapped his arms around me, a shield, a fortress. "I will find her," he vowed into my hair. "I swear it's in my blood. I will burn this kingdom to the ground if I have to." As the bond pulsed, I felt it again. That warm, humming connection. It was stronger now. Maybe it was fate. Or maybe it was war. Eventually, he carried me back to his room. Not the guest room. His room. He set me on the massive bed. The sheets smelled like him. Truth be told, I should have pushed him away. I was covered in mud. I was a mess. Instead, I watched him. He went to the basin. He washed the blood off his hands. The water turned pink. Then, he came back with a wet cloth. Without a word, he began to wipe the mud from my face. His touch was so gentle, so careful, as if the world narrowed. There was only us. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked softly. He was cleaning the cut on my palm. "I didn't think you would care," I admitted. "I'm just a vessel, remember?" Her words hung in the air. Alaric stopped. His hand froze on my cheek. Slowly, he looked into my eyes. "You are not a vessel," he said roughly. "Not anymore." The space between them burned. Suddenly, he leaned in. His forehead rested against mine. "My wolf," he whispered. "He wants to claim you. He thinks you are mate." Her heart skipped. Mate. The word was forbidden. A king could not mate with a human. But was I human? Even so, I pulled back slightly. "I can't be," I said. "I'm nobody, Alaric. I'm from the dregs." "It doesn't matter," he said. "The nose knows, the blood knows." Just like that, the moment shattered. A knock at the door. Sharp, urgent. Knock, knock, knock. Alaric stiffened. He stood up. The king mask slid back into place. "Enter," he barked. It was General Kale. He looked pale. "Sire," Kale said, looking at me and then quickly looking away. "We found something on the intruder's body. A letter." As a result, Alaric walked over. He took the paper. He read it. As the silence stretched, the temperature in the room dropped. Alaric's knuckles turned white. What followed was a sound I would never forget, a low, dangerous snarl that shook the glass in the windows. "What is it?" I asked. Alaric turned to me. His eyes were black pits of fury. "It's a map," he said, "of the nursery." Deep down, she knew the truth. "The queen didn't just want you gone," Alaric said, his voice deadly quiet. "She promised the baby to the Iron Claw, to experiment on." Her blood ran cold. Because of that, the stakes had changed. This wasn't just about a throne anymore. It was about survival. And Alaric looked at me, at my stomach, with a fierce, terrifying protectiveness. "No one leaves this room," he commanded Kale. "Double the guards. If the queen comes near this door, kill her." At that moment, war was declared. But then, I felt a flutter in my stomach. A tiny movement. Like a butterfly wing. The baby moved. And for the first time, I felt a flash of fur ripple under my own skin. Not only that, but my nails were longer, sharper. Deep down, I knew I was running out of time. The wolf inside me was waking up. and if I shifted before the baby was born, the sheer power would kill us both. As the days turned to nights, time blurred. I was trapped in Alaric's room. It was a golden cage. But inside, I was burning. Truth be told, it felt like my bones were being dipped in acid. Snap, pop. I lay on the bed, gasping. Sweat soaked through the silk sheets. Because of that, Alaric never left my side. He wasn't the king anymore. He was just a man, a guard, a mate. He sat on the edge of the mattress. His shirt was discarded on the floor. His skin was hot. "Breathe, Ivy," he commanded gently. His hand covered my stomach. Even so, the pain spiked. "Ah!" I cried out. I arched my back. My fingernails dug into his arm. Scratch. Without warning, I looked down at my arm. The skin rippled. Fur white, shimmering fur pushed through the pores. Just a patch. But it was there. Her breath caught. "Alaric," I whispered. "Look." At that moment, he saw it. Usually, a shifter king would kill a human who showed signs of infection. It was an abomination. But then, Alaric didn't reach for his sword. Instead, he leaned down. He brought his lips to the patch of fur, and he licked it. A soothing, a claim, a primal comfort. Deep down, she knew the truth. He wasn't rejecting the wolf inside me, he was welcoming it. "The air," he rumbled against my skin. "His blood is too strong. He is forcing you to turn." Her world tilted. "Will I die?" I asked. My voice was small, broken. The moment their eyes locked, his gold gaze burned with intensity. "No," he growled. "I will not let death take you. You are mine." Suddenly, a knock echoed through the room. Bam, bam, bam. "Sire," General Kale's voice. "The winter solstice ball. The lords are gathering. If you and the queen do not appear, the rumors will start. They will think the crown is weak." Because of that, Alaric stiffened. He pulled away. The loss of his heat made me shiver. "I cannot leave her," Alaric snarled at the door. Yet I grabbed his hand. "Go," I whispered. "If you don't go, Serafina wins. She wants you to look weak." For a moment, he hesitated. He looked at me, sweaty, shaking, half-human. Then he nodded. "I will go," he said. "But I am locking you in. No one enters. No one." As if fate demanded it, he kissed my forehead. A promise. Soon after, he left. The lock clicked. Click. But he forgot one thing. The balcony door. And in the reflection of the glass, I saw a shadow move. Meanwhile, the great hall was a sea of diamonds and lies. Music played. Violins, cellos. A slow, haunting waltz. Alaric stood at the top of the stairs. He wore black velvet. A crown of iron sat on his head. He looked lethal. On the other hand, Queen Serafina stood beside him. She wore white. She looked like an angel. But Alaric could smell the rot beneath her perfume. "Smile, husband," she whispered, waving to the crowd. "They are watching." Deep down, he knew the truth. She was plotting something. Tonight. While the music swelled, Alaric scanned the room. He was looking for threats, for the Iron Claw spies. Suddenly, Serafina turned to him. "How is the little rat?" she asked. "Is she dead yet?" His blood boiled. Without thinking, he grabbed her wrist, hard. "Careful, Serafina," he warned, his voice a low growl. "Accidents happen." She didn't flinch. In fact, she smiled wider. "Yes," she purred. "They do. Especially when one is left alone helpless while the king plays dress-up." Her words hung in the air. Alaric froze. Alone. He had left guards at the door, but the balcony, as if pulled by a string, his head snapped toward the windows. The storm outside was raging. Thunder crashed. Boom! In the span of a breath, the realization hit him. The gray wolf from the garden. He wasn't alone. It was a distraction. What's worse, Serafina was too calm, too happy. "What did you do?" Alaric demanded. He squeezed her wrist until the bones creaked. She leaned in close. Her lips brushed his ear. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. but the Iron Claw are very good climbers. Just like that, the music stopped for Alaric. The room went silent. Without another word, he shoved the queen away. He didn't care about the lords. He didn't care about the rumors. He turned and ran. He tore off his crown. Clang. It hit the floor. He ran not as a king, but as a mate. Back in the room, the wind howled. Truth be told, I felt safe. The door was locked. Alaric had promised. But then the curtains moved. Not from the wind. Without warning, a figure stepped out from the shadows of the balcony. He was dressed in black leather. He wore a mask of iron. My blood ran cold. "Who are you?" I gasped. I tried to sit up, but the pain in my bones pinned me down. He didn't speak. He held up a blade. It dripped with green liquid. Wolfsbane. Deep down, she knew the truth. One scratch and the baby would die. I would die. So, I didn't scream. Screaming takes breath. I needed every ounce of air to fight. As if summoned, the wolf inside me woke up. It didn't care that I was weak. It didn't care that I was human. It roared. Her instincts surged. The assassin lunged. Swish! Before she could move, my body moved for me. I rolled off the bed. Thump. The knife buried itself in the mattress where my heart had been a second ago. "Feisty," the assassin rasped. He pulled the knife free. He turned toward me. Because of that, I was cornered against the wardrobe. At that moment, I saw it. A heavy iron candlestick on the floor. Without thinking, I grabbed it. The assassin laughed. "A stick against a blade? Foolish girl." He lunged again, but he was slow. To my eyes, he was moving in slow motion. Why? Because the alpha blood was surging. My senses were sharpening. As if fate guided my hand, I swung the candlestick. Crack! It hit his knee. "Arr!" He crumbled. Not only that, but I didn't stop. I jumped on him. Her wolf pressed forward. I wasn't Ivy the victim anymore. I was a mother protecting her young. I raised the candlestick again, but then the door exploded inward. Boom! Wood splinters flew everywhere. In the doorway stood Alaric. He wasn't human. Not anymore. His eyes were black. His teeth were fully extended. He saw the assassin on the floor. He saw me holding the weapon. And he saw the knife with the green poison. What followed was a massacre. Alaric didn't just attack. He erased the threat. In seconds, the assassin was gone. Thrown out the balcony window. Gone. As the silence returned, Alaric turned to me. He was panting. He looked at me with wild eyes. Then, he saw the blood on my hands. Not my blood, the assassin's. "You fought," he whispered, disbelief coloring his tone. "You fought him." I dropped the candlestick. Clatter. "I had to," I said, my voice trembling. "For the baby." Suddenly, Alaric fell to his knees before me. He took my bloody hands in his. Deep down, something shifted between us. It wasn't just lust. It wasn't just duty. It was respect. But then, I looked at the assassin's mask lying on the floor. It had fallen off during the fight. I recognized the face. It wasn't a stranger. "Alaric," I whispered. "That man is an Iron Claw." Alaric looked at the face. His face went pale. "No," he breathed. "That is the Queen's personal guard." The truth unraveled. It wasn't an invasion, it was an inside job, and we had proof. Just like that, the game changed. We weren't hunting spies anymore. We were hunting the Queen. Without warning, Alaric kicked the assassin's body aside. Thud. He didn't look at the dead man. He looked at me. His eyes were wide. Frantic. "We have to go," he said. His voice was rough like sandpaper. "Now." Her chest ached. I looked at the room. It was my prison. Now it was a crime scene. Because of that, I nodded. I tried to stand. But then, my legs gave out. In the span of a breath, Alaric caught me. He swept me up into his arms. I was light as a feather to him. As if pulled by a string, I buried my face in his neck. He smelled of copper, blood, and pine, forest. It was the best smell in the world. "Where are we going?" I whispered. "The catacombs," he answered. "Under the palace. The queen doesn't know the old ways." So, we ran. We didn't take the main hall. Alaric pressed a hidden stone in the wall. Click. A secret door opened. Inside, it was dark, cold. It smelled of wet earth. Deep down, she knew the truth. We weren't just running away. We were running towards something new. As the silence stretched, Alaric stopped. We were deep underground. The only light came from a glowing moss on the walls. He set me down on a stone bench. He knelt before me. Without another word, he took my face in his hands. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. "Ivy," he said, "listen to me." Her heart skipped. "The queen has declared war," he said. "If we leave this tunnel, there is no going back. I will be a traitor king. You will be a fugitive." The space between them burned. "I don't care," I said. "I only care about the baby, and Alara." At that moment, Alaric's eyes shifted. The gold swallowed the black. "And me?" he asked. "Do you care about me?" Her breath caught. Truth be told, I did. I cared too much. "Yes," I whispered. Just like that, the dam broke. Alaric leaned in. He didn't kiss my lips. He kissed the spot right over my pulse on my neck. Her body moved on instinct. I tilted my head back. As the bond pulsed, I felt his teeth scrape my skin. Not to hurt, to mark. "Mine," he growled against my skin. "Let them come. Let them all come. I will kill them all for you." And just like that, everything changed. I wasn't just a vessel. I was his. Suddenly, a sound echoed down the tunnel. Boom, boom, boom. Drums. Not only that, but the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. What's worse, I knew that rhythm. It was the war drums of the Iron Claw. Deep down, I knew. The queen hadn't just sent an assassin. She had opened the gates. Immediately, Alaric stood up. He pulled me behind him. "Stay close," he commanded. As a result, we moved faster. The tunnel wound deeper into the earth. But then the smell hit me. Smoke. Her wolf pressed forward. My nose twitched. "Alaric," I hissed. "Smoke." Before he could answer, we turned a corner. Her world tilted. The tunnel was blocked, not by rocks, by fire. Someone had lit the old support beams. The way forward was a wall of orange flames. Because of that, the heat was unbearable. "She knew," Alaric roared. He punched the stone wall. Crack! "She knew we would come this way." Even so, we couldn't go back. The drums were behind us. The fire was in front of us. Suddenly, I felt a pull in my gut. Not the baby. The wolf. My eyes adjusted. I looked at the fire. To a human, it was blinding. Yet to my wolf eyes, I saw a gap. A small, dark opening near the floor where the smoke was thinnest. Without thinking, I grabbed Alaric's hand. "There," I pointed. "A vent. We can squeeze through." Alaric looked. He was too big. However, he looked at me. He looked at the fire. "You go," he said. "I will hold them off here." Her voice trembled. "No, I'm not leaving you." As if fate demanded it, the drums got louder, voices echoed. "Find them, kill the beast." Alaric grabbed my shoulders. He shook me. "You are carrying my heir," he yelled. "You have to live." In the echo of his voice, I heard his fear. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of failing me. But I wasn't leaving. Instead, I did something crazy. I grabbed his face and kissed him. Hard. The moment their eyes locked, the magic happened. My skin glowed. The marks on my arm lit up like blue neon. As the light faded, the fire dwindled. The flames shrank back, as if they were afraid of me. Truth be told, I didn't know how I did it. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was the baby's power. Alaric stared at the dying flames. He stared at me. You? He whispered. You are not just a wolf. Before the words left her lips, I pulled him forward. Run now. Talk later. So, we ran through the smoke, unburned. Eventually, we burst out of the tunnel. But we weren't safe. We were in the palace courtyard, and it was full of enemies. What followed was a nightmare. The sky was red. The obsidian palace was burning. Hundreds of soldiers stood in the courtyard. They wore the iron armor of the rival pack. In the center of them stood Queen Seraphina. She looked glorious. Terrible. She held a torch in one hand. At the same time, Alaric pushed me behind a statue. Stay down, he hissed. But Seraphina laughed, high and cold. Come out, husband, she screamed. I know you are there. I smell your pet. As the silence roared, Alaric stepped out. He walked tall. He looked like a god of war. You have betrayed your kingdom, Alaric boomed. You have betrayed your mate. Seraphina smiled. I have saved myself, she spat. You were weak. You fell in love with a lab rat. Then she snapped her fingers. Without warning, 2 guards dragged someone forward. A girl, small, thin, wearing a blue scarf. Her blood ran cold. Ilara! I screamed. In the span of a breath, I ran out from behind the statue. Ivy! No! Alaric yelled, but I couldn't stop. That was my sister. She was on her knees. A sword was pressed to her neck. As a result, I froze in the middle of the courtyard. Seraphina looked at me. She looked at my stomach. Look at her, Seraphina sneered at the soldiers. Carrying a monster. She looked at Alaric. Here is the deal, the queen said. Surrender the crown, abdicate, and I will let the sister go. Her chest ached. If you fight! Seraphina brought the torch closer to Ilara's face. The girl burns. Time stood still. Alaric looked at me. He looked at Ilara. He looked at his kingdom burning. He had to choose. His power or my heart? Deep down, she knew the truth. A king would choose the crown. A king would sacrifice one life to save thousands. Her eyes filled with tears. Alaric, I whispered. Don't. But then, Alaric did the unthinkable. He dropped his sword. Clang. He fell to his knees. I surrender, he said. His voice broke. Let them go. The air thickened. The soldiers gasped, and Alpha never knelt. Never. Yet, Seraphina didn't lower the torch. Instead, she grinned. A twisted, evil grin. You are a fool, Alaric, she whispered. I was never going to let them go. Without warning, she threw the torch. Not at Ilara. At me. As the fire bloomed beneath her skin, I screamed. But the fire didn't burn. Suddenly, a howl ripped through the air. It wasn't Alaric. It came from me. As the mark tingled, my bones snapped. Crack, crunch. Her world tilted. The baby kicked, hard. And just like that, the human girl was gone. In her place stood a white wolf. Huge, glowing, and she was angry. In the span of a breath, the world changed. I wasn't Ivy anymore. I wasn't human. I was more. My vision sharpened. The night wasn't dark. It was a tapestry of gray and shadow. As a result, the smells hit me like a physical blow. The sweat of the soldiers, fear. The burning tapestries, smoke. The queen's perfume, rot. Without warning, a roar tore from my throat. It wasn't a scream, it was a challenge, a primal sound that made the stained glass windows vibrate. As the silence stretched, everything froze. The Ironclaw soldiers lowered their swords. Even Seraphina took a step back, her face twisting from smug triumph to pure terror. A white wolf, someone whispered. The legend. Because of that hesitation, I moved. Her instincts surged. I didn't know how to fight as a wolf, but I knew how to protect myself. I launched myself at the queen. I was a blur of white fur and teeth. Before she could move, I slammed into her guards. Crunch. Armor buckled like tin foil. What followed was chaos. Alaric saw me. He saw the legend come to life. And just like that, he grabbed his sword from the mud. He rose from his knees. He wasn't a surrendered king. He was an alpha fighting alongside his true mate. Suddenly, the courtyard became a slaughterhouse. Alaric was a whirlwind of steel. I was a storm of teeth. We fought. We bled. We were protected. Yet, there were too many of them. For every Ironclaw soldier we dropped, 2 more took their place. What's worse, I was losing control. The wolf mind was too strong. It wanted to hunt. It wanted to kill. It didn't care about strategy. As the bond pulsed, Alaric shouted at me mentally, "Ivy, focus, the gate." But then, Seraphina screamed an order from behind the lines. "Forget the king, net the beast, bring her down." Without thinking, I turned toward her voice. Because of that mistake, I didn't see the trap. A heavy net, woven with silver wire and weighted with iron, dropped from the balcony above. Whoosh, snap. It fell over me. The silver burned my fur like acid. The iron weights pinned me to the bloody stones. I thrashed, I snarled, but the more I fought, the tighter it became. Her chest ached. I couldn't breathe. At that moment, Alaric turned. He saw me trapped. He roared, a sound of pure agony, and tried to fight his way to me, but 5 Ironclaw elites jumped him. They beat him down with shields. They chained his arms. As the light faded, the wolf magic sputtered. It was too much, too fast. My bones began to snap back into place. Human shape, human weakness. The pain was worse than the birth pangs. I screamed, naked and shivering under the burning net. And standing over me, smiling, was Queen Seraphina. "Did you really think," she whispered, "that a mutt like you could win?" Eventually, the fighting stopped. The courtyard was silent except for the crackle of fires. I lay in the mud, human again. Naked. Broken. Someone threw a rough sackcloth over me. Truth be told, I wished they had just killed me. Alaric was on his knees again, chained with heavy iron manacles that smelled of wolfsbane. Blood ran down his face from a cut over his eye. Even so, he didn't look at his captors. He only looked at me. His eyes were pools of golden grief. "I'm sorry," he mouthed. Her heart shattered. The mighty Alpha King apologizing to a girl from the dregs. Then, Seraphina walked into the center of the courtyard. She held Alara by the hair. Alara was crying silently. Her blue scarf was trampled in the dirt. "Look at them," Seraphina sneered at the Ironclaw general. "The great Alaric Vane and his whore." Because of that word, Alaric lunged against his chains. He snarled. Seraphina just laughed. She walked over to him. Without warning, she slapped him, hard across the face. Crack! Alaric didn't even flinch. "Where is my honor?" she hissed at him. "You chose her over your queen?" "She is worth 10 of you," Alaric spat, blood coating his teeth. As a result, Seraphina's face went blank. Cold rage. "Take him to the deepest cell," she ordered the guards. "Let the rats feast on him." 2 massive soldiers dragged Alaric away. He fought every step, his eyes locked on mine until the doors slammed shut, swallowing him into the darkness. Deep down, I felt the bond between us stretch thin. It didn't break, but it went cold. Now, it was just me, and the queen, and Alara. Seraphina stood over me. She looked at my swollen stomach. Her blood ran cold. "Do not worry, little vessel," she whispered. "I won't kill you yet." She leaned down. Her breath smelled like victory. "The baby needs to bake a little longer," she smiled. "The Ironclaw shamans needed alive for the extraction." Extraction? What did that mean? Before she could move, guards grabbed my arms. "Take her to the Iron Tower," Seraphina commanded. "Chain her tight. If she shifts again, skin her." I looked at Alara one last time as they dragged me away. "Alara!" I screamed. But Seraphina put a hand over Alara's mouth, and just like that, I lost everything. My king, my sister, and soon my baby. That night, there were no stars. I was in the Iron Tower, the highest cell in the palace. It had no windows, just cold stone and iron bars. My wrists were chained to the wall. The iron burned my skin, a constant, dull agony designed to keep the wolf weak. Truth be told, I didn't have the strength to shift anyway. I sat on the freezing floor, my arms wrapped around my belly. Why? Because it was the only thing I had left to protect. The baby was quiet now. Too quiet. Was it hurt by the shift? Was it dying because I was weak? Her world tilted with guilt. I had failed. I thought being special, being a white wolf, would save us, but it only made things worse. If I had just stayed in the dregs, Alara would be sick, but safe. Alaric would still be king. Instead, I walked into their world, and I burned it down. As the silence stretched, the door to my cell opened with a groan of rusted metal. Serafina didn't come inside. She stood in the doorway, silhouetted by torchlight. She held something in her hand, a small blue scarf. Her breath caught Alara's scarf. Serafina dropped it on the floor just inside the bars. "She cried for you," Serafina said softly. It was quite pathetic. I tried to lunge, but the chains snapped taut, jerking me back against the wall. Clang. "Where is she?" I croaked. My voice was raw from screaming. "Gone," Serafina lied. Or was it a lie? "Sent to the Iron Claw lands. They have uses for human girls." As a result, a sound tore from my chest. A broken sob. "Why are you doing this?" I begged. "You have the throne. You won. Just let us go." Serafina stepped closer to the bars. Her perfect face was twisted in the torchlight. "You took what was mine," she hissed. "Alaric was mine. The legacy was mine. You are just dirt that got in the way." Then she smiled. "Tomorrow night is the blood moon," she whispered. "The shamans will be here. They will cut the alpha power out of your womb. You will watch your abomination die before I let you bleed out on this floor." Deep down, she knew the truth. This was the end. Serafina turned to leave. "Sweet dreams, Vessel," she said. The door slammed shut. Boom. Darkness swallowed me whole. Why keep fighting? Why keep breathing when every breath hurts? I laid my cheek against the cold stone. I closed my eyes. I listened for Alaric through the bond. It was just static. I listened for Alara. Silence. And I listened for the baby. Thump, thump. Weak, slow. But there. Still, a heartbeat. A tiny spark in the overwhelming dark. Because of that single heartbeat, I couldn't give up. Not yet. But what could a human girl in iron chains do against a kingdom of wolves? In that moment, alone in the dark, I realized something terrifying. To save my pack, I couldn't just be a mother anymore. I had to become a killer. Come morning, the sun didn't rise. The sky remained a bruised purple. The air was thick with the metallic tang of impending blood magic. I was still chained. My wrists were raw. Drip. Drip. Deep down, she knew the truth. I wasn't going to survive the night. But then, the heavy lock on the door clicked. Clank. I didn't look up. I expected Serafina. I expected the shamans with their obsidian knives. Instead, boots shuffled on the stone floor. Hesitant. Heavy. "Lady Ivy?" Her breath caught. I looked up. It wasn't an executioner. It was General Kale. He looked tired. His armor was dented. He held a ring of keys in his shaking hand. "Why are you here?" I rasped. "Did she send you to drag me out?" As the silence stretched, Kale looked at the floor, then at me. "No," he whispered. "I swore an oath to the king, to protect the realm." He stepped closer. Without warning, he unlocked the manacles. Click. Clatter. The iron fell away. As blood rushed back to her hands, I stared at him. "She is selling us to the Iron Claw," Kale said, his voice hard. "I saw the payment logs. She didn't just open the gates, she sold our land. Because of that, his loyalty had shifted. Truth be told, I didn't care about politics. I cared about Alaric. Where is he? I demanded, rubbing my wrists. The Black Dungeon, Cale said. He pulled a dagger from his boot. He handed it to me. Level 4, guarded by the Iron Claw elites. I took the dagger. It was heavy, cold. At that moment, I wasn't a surrogate. I was a soldier. Get me down there, I said. Yet, Cale shook his head. I can get you to the stairs, he said. But I have to go to the barracks. I have to rally the men who are still loyal. If we don't have an army, saving the king won't matter. So, we had a plan. A suicide mission. As if pulled by a string, I stood up. My legs were weak, but my will was iron. Go, I commanded. Cale bowed, not to a prisoner, to a queen. Then, he left. Just like that, I was free. But freedom wasn't safety. As the shadows danced between them, I gripped the dagger. I had to descend into the dark. I had to find my mate, and God help anyone who stood in my way. Eventually, I reached the 4th level. It was damp here. It smelled of mold and old fear. What followed was a game of cat and mouse. I hid in the shadows. I watched the Iron Claw guards patrol. They were huge men with jagged scars. Her wolf pressed forward. Kill them, she whispered. Tear them apart. But I was in human form. I was small. I had to be smart. Without thinking, I threw a rock down the hallway. Clatter. What was that? A guard grunted. He walked toward the sound. He passed my hiding spot. In the span of a breath, I moved. I didn't hesitate. I jammed the dagger into the gap in his armor. Thud. He didn't even scream. He just gurgled and fell. Deep down, I should have been horrified. I had just killed a man. Instead, I felt cold, focused. I took his keys. Moments later, I found the cell. It was a cage of silver bars. Inside, her heart shattered. Alaric was chained to the wall. He was shirtless. His chest was a map of cuts and burns. His head hung low. Alaric, I whispered. As if summoned, his head snapped up. His eyes were dim. The gold was fading. Ivy? He croaked. You are a dream. Go away. Her chest ached. He thought he was hallucinating. Without another word, I jammed the key into the lock. Click. I rushed in. I fell to my knees in the dirty straw. I touched his face. I'm real, I said, tears hot on my cheeks. I'm here. The moment their eyes locked, the gold in his eyes flared. Whoosh. Ivy, he breathed. He leaned into my touch. How? Cale, I said. He's rallying the guard. I worked on his chains. My hands were shaking. But then, footsteps echoed in the hall. Many footsteps. Running. They found the body, Alaric growled. He tried to stand, but the chains held him. Ivy, leave me. Run. Even so, I didn't stop. Never, I snarled. Finally, the last lock gave way. Alaric fell forward. I caught him. He was heavy, weak. But as soon as his skin touched mine, the bond pulsed. It was like a lightning strike. Zap. My energy poured into him. His strength poured into me. As the mark tingled, his wounds stopped bleeding. His breathing steadied. Suddenly, the guards appeared at the door, 3 of them. Well, well, the leader sneered. The lovers reunited. Alaric stood up. He didn't look weak anymore. He looked like a death incarnate. A growl rose in his throat. You made a mistake, Alaric said softly. What's that? The guard laughed. You let her get to me, Alaric whispered. And just like that, the king unleashed the beast. What followed was not a fight. It was an execution. Alaric didn't even shift. He used his bare hands. He used their own weapons against them. In the echo of his voice, I heard the Alpha command returning. When the last guard fell, Alaric turned to me. He was covered in blood again, but this time he was smiling. A feral, terrifying smile. My queen, he said. He pulled me close. You came for me. Her soul answered. Always. We ran up the stairs. By the time we reached the courtyard level, the noise was deafening. Boom, boom, boom. The drums were louder. The chanting had started. The blood moon ritual, Alaric said. They are preparing. We looked out a narrow window. The courtyard was packed. Hundreds of Iron Claw soldiers, and in the center a stone altar. Her blood ran cold. Serafina was standing by the altar, and next to her was a small figure in a blue scarf, Alara. She hadn't sent her away. She kept her, to watch. Because of that, a red haze filled my vision. We can't fight them all, Alaric said, assessing the numbers. Not alone. Suddenly, a horn blew from the west gate. Arrow! Her world tilted. It wasn't an Ironclaw horn. It was a royal horn. As if fate demanded it, the gates burst open. General Kale rode in, and behind him the palace guard. And behind them my eyes widened. Hundreds of people, people in rags, people with improvised weapons, hammers, pipes, chains, the dregs. They hadn't come for the king. They had come for me. The girl from the slums who became a wolf. Truth be told, it was beautiful. As the chaos erupted, Alaric looked at me. Our army is here, he said. But Serafina didn't look at the army. She looked at the moon. It was rising, red as blood. She raised a dagger over Alara. Deep down, she knew the truth. The battle didn't matter. The army didn't matter. If that dagger fell, my sister died. Without warning, Alaric grabbed my hand. Do you trust me? He asked. With my life, I answered. Good, he said. Because we are going to jump. Before she could move, he kicked out the stained glass window, and we leaped, 2 stories down, into the heart of the enemy. In the air, we didn't fall as humans. We shifted, a massive black wolf and a glowing white wolf. As gravity took hold, we crashed into the square. The final battle had begun. In the span of a breath, we hit the ground. Crash. The stone pavement cracked beneath our paws. Dust and debris exploded outward. As a result, the Iron Claw soldiers stumbled back. They weren't looking at a king and a girl anymore. They were looking at 2 gods of war. Without warning, Alaric, the Black Wolf, lunged. He was a shadow made solid. He tore through the front line like paper. Snap. Crunch. At the same time, I moved. I was smaller, faster, a streak of white light. Her wolf pressed forward. I didn't fight to kill. I fought to reach the altar. Because of that, I wove through the legs of the soldiers. I dodged swords. I jumped over shields. But then, a massive Iron Claw warrior blocked my path. He raised a heavy axe. Die, mutt! He roared. Before she could move, a brick flew through the air. The whack! It hit the soldier right in the face. He stumbled. I looked back. It was a woman from the dregs. She was holding a broken pipe. She nodded at me. Deep down, she knew the truth. I wasn't fighting alone. My pack, the people of the gray zone, were fighting for me. So I didn't stop. I launched myself off the soldier's chest. As the air thickened with the smell of blood and smoke, I locked eyes with Serafina. She was still on the altar. She held the dagger to Alara's throat. Her hand was shaking. Why? Because she saw us. She saw the tide turning. Yet, she didn't drop the knife. She smiled. A crazy, desperate smile. If I can't have the crown, she screamed over the noise of the battle, no one will. Her blood ran cold. She wasn't looking at Alaric. She was looking at me, and she started to chant, the blood moon magic. She was trying to drain the life from my baby from across the courtyard. Suddenly, a pain ripped through my womb. Agony. It felt like someone had reached inside me with icy fingers. Her world tilted. I stumbled. My paws slid on the bloody stones. I fell. As the mark tingled, the white fur on my side began to turn gray. Life was leaving me. At that moment, Alaric saw me fall. He let out a howl that shattered windows. but he was surrounded by 10 guards. He couldn't reach me. Just like that, I was helpless. Or so she thought. Deep down, Serafina forgot one thing. She was fighting a mother. As the silence roared in my ears, I looked at Alara. She was crying. Then I looked at my stomach. Even so, through the pain, I felt a kick. Thump. The baby wasn't dying. The baby was fighting back. As if summoned, a surge of power exploded from my core. It wasn't the wolf magic. It was alpha magic. Pure alpha magic. Without thinking, I stood up. I shook off the gray decay. I opened my mouth. But I didn't howl. I spoke. In wolf form. The ancient tongue. Enough! The sound hit Serafina like a physical blow. Boom! She flew backward. The dagger flew from her hand. It clattered onto the stones. In the span of a breath, Alara scrambled away. Now, nothing stood between me and the queen. I stalked toward the steps of the altar. Serafina scrambled backward. She looked small. Pathetic. "Stay back!" she shrieked. "I am the queen!" As the shadows danced between them, Alaric broke free from the guards. He leaped onto the platform beside me, Black Wolf and White Wolf. Serafina looked at Alaric. "Alaric, please," she begged. "I did it for us. For the kingdom." Alaric shifted. Bones cracked. The man stood there, naked and bloody, holding a sword he had taken from a fallen enemy. Her breath caught. "You did it for yourself," Alaric said. His voice was cold, dead. However, he didn't raise the sword. He looked at me, the White Wolf. "She is yours, my queen," he said. As if fate demanded it, I shifted too. I stood there. My clothes were shredded. My hair was wild. My eyes were glowing violet. I walked up to Serafina. Truth be told, I wanted to tear her throat out. But then, I looked at the battlefield. The fighting had stopped. Everyone was watching. If I killed her in anger, I was just a beast. Instead, I picked up the dagger she had dropped. "You wanted to cut the power out of me," I whispered. Serafina trembled. "Mercy." "You gave my sister no mercy," I said. "You gave my baby no mercy." Without warning, Serafina lunged. She had a hidden knife in her sleeve. "Die!" she screamed. But I was faster. The wolf reflexes never left. At that moment, I sidestepped. I drove the dagger into her heart. Thud. Serafina gasped. Her eyes went wide. As the light faded from her eyes, she slumped against me. "The throne," she gurgled. "Was never yours," I finished. I let her fall. Just like that, the false queen was dead. As the silence stretched, the Iron Claw soldiers looked at their dead leader. Then they looked at Alaric. Then at me. Clang. One soldier dropped his sword. Clang. Clang. They all dropped them. They fell to their knees. Not only that, but the dregs, the common people, started to cheer. "Hail the White Wolf! Hail the king!" But then a sharp pain doubled me over. Splash. Water broke on the stone altar. Her chest ached. "Alaric!" I gasped. "It's time!" What followed was a blur of panic and joy. Alaric scooped me up. He didn't take me to the cold hospital. He took me to the throne room. It was the only safe place. He laid me on the furs in front of the throne. "Get the healers!" he roared to Kale. "And get her sister!" Moments later, Alara was there. She held my hand. "I'm here, Ivy," she cried. "I'm safe. You saved me." Because of that, I could relax. I could focus on the pain. Truth be told, labor was harder than fighting an army. Hours passed. The sun began to rise, painting the room in gold. Eventually, with one final scream, "Wah!" The sound cut through the air. Clear. Strong. Alaric was there. His hands were shaking more than they had in battle. He held up a small, squirming bundle. "A son," he whispered. Tears, real tears, ran down his blood-streaked face. "Ivy, we have a son." Her heart skipped. He placed the baby on my chest. He was tiny. He had dark fuzz on his head. But then the baby opened his eyes. One eye was black, the other was gold, and on his tiny shoulder a birthmark shaped like a crown. As the bond pulsed, it snapped into place. Not just between me and Alaric, but the three of us, triad, family. Deep down, she knew the truth. The curse was broken. The lineage was safe. Time stood still. Alaric leaned down. He kissed me. Soft. Sweet. "The contract is void," he murmured against my lips. "I know," I smiled, tracing his jaw. "I fulfilled my end." "No," he said. He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, the contract I signed in the dregs. Without thinking, he ripped it in half, then into pieces. "You are not an employee," he said. "You are not a surrogate. You are my life." Her soul answered. "And you are mine." Soon after, the doors opened. General Kale stood there. The lords were behind him. The people of the dregs were looking in. Alaric stood up. He helped me stand. I was weak. I was tired. But I held my son. As if the world narrowed, we walked to the balcony. The sun was fully up now. The smoke was clearing. Alaric raised our son high in the air. Suddenly, a roar went up from the city below. Wolves howled. Humans cheered. Maybe it was fate. A girl from the slums, a broken king, and a baby who bridged two worlds. In the echo of his voice, Alaric whispered in my ear, "Long live the queen." And just like that, the story of the vessel ended, and the reign of the White Wolf began. The end.